Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle, the wrestling video podcast I run here on youtube.com/UC Campbell. It's been a little while since I've done this, so it's been about a week. I actually kind of took a break last week and didn't do any of these things. Didn't do any of the GodSaw's turnbuckles or anything in that sense. So we are trying to get back into a flow of things. I know we missed a lot from last week with the SmackDown invading Raw, everything in that sense. The TLC pay-per-view didn't do anything of that. We're not going to talk about that because that's kind of not necessary at this point to really talk about. I think we've seen a lot of different people talk about that at this point in time, and we're just going to kind of go back into the flow of things with. With Monday Night Raw from October 30th, 2017. That is what's going to be the main focus over here on this point in time. We are currently live streaming this at this point in time on my YouTube channel, and we will be, and that's how we will typically be doing most of these, and then the video goes out afterwards. So let's go right into Monday Night Raw here for, again, October 30th. 2017. I thought this was a fun Raw for the most part. Even some of the bad points. There are some bad points in here. Some of the even those bad point ones. I'm not gonna lie, had me smiling a little bit too to go along with it because we did have a horror movie themed night based off of what everything that was going on. You had little bits with Kane and to go along with that, and they kind of played off of it throughout the entire show, and I found it to be rather amusing. I'm not gonna lie, I found it rather amusing. So they started off the show with Kurt Angle. Basically, he had the whole roster on the stage. He was addressing them and apologizing for them to them for putting them in a bad situation last week with the SmackDown guys getting into the arena. He put all of them at risk, everything in that sense. This eventually brings out Stephanie McMahon, and boy, we had one return, we had two returns, four returns tonight. It was a night of returns. Stephanie was the first one to return. She comes out, basically praises Kurt for a little bit, and then of course she goes into her typical berating of her general manager and running him down throughout the entire bit. It's good to see that Stephanie hasn't changed in any way, shape, or form. She runs down her general manager, and nobody can do anything about it. So she basically leaves an ultimatum out for him. She puts him on Team Raw and captaining Team Raw. So it's now confirmed that Kurt Angle is going to be part of the match at Survivor Series as well to go along with everything. And this kind of led to be Kurt Angle's theme of the evening. So he got berated by Stephanie, and this eventually leads to him kind of taking it out on a couple of other people throughout the entire night, with certain aspects of justification on the side of the Miz and Alexa Bliss. So first of all, Miz shows up in a limo as Stephanie is leaving again. Kurt sees him coming in, and they have that conversation. He's like, "Where were you last week when Raw was getting invaded? Everybody else was there was like other people trying to fight for the show. Where were you?" And decides that, you know what, I'm going to put you in an IC title match tonight to go along with it. This plays up a little bit later on with Alexa Bliss to go along with it. To go along with everything on that side as well. Kind of an underlying theme, like people who didn't, or at least main people who should have been like the locker room leaders, I guess, in that sense, were kind of getting thrown to the wolves a little bit. And so he made an IC title match for later on in the evening, and Miz would not know his opponent yet. So this brings us to the next bit, which was going to be Bayley going up against Alicia Fox. But Alicia Fox comes out with Bayley in the ring, says, "Nah, I'm team captain. I don't have time for this. So I found a suitable replacement. Return number 2." And this one was not so long of a return. Matter of fact, two of these were not like returns for like, oh, they've been gone for months and months and months. They've been gone only for a few weeks. And it's only been gone for a few weeks in that sense. She returns, though, to the ring against Bayley. I thought the match that they had was a pretty decent one. They did a good amount of back and forth between the both of them. And yeah, they also played it off. Yeah, Nia was coming off a bit dominant in the match, but also Bayley was showing a lot of fire inside the match as well, like a little bit more aggressiveness, everything in that sense. Kind of what people have been wanting to see out of that character for a while was that fire that you saw during her time in NXT. That's what they want to see again with Bayley instead of what they initially had written with her with Monday Night Raw side. So at least in this particular match, I mean, we'll also have to see it in promos as well. But in this particular match, she was kind of showing that fire that she had shown in NXT. So that's always a good sign on that one. But Nia Jax does eventually go over in this match, and then Alicia Fox puts her on the Raw Women's team for Survivor Series to go along with it. Like I said, I thought the match was pretty good. We've seen matches with them in NXT and some of the matches that they've had on Raw as well, where both Nia and Bayley work really well together. And this was one of those matches. So as Nia Jax was going, as they were going up the rampway, Samoa Joe's music hits. And Samoa Joe, again, return number 3, like within the first, like, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes of the show, we had 3 returns. You had Stephanie show up, you had Nia Jax show back up, and then Samoa Joe shows up again. He comes out, and they go to the commercial break. He comes back, he cuts a promo, basically making himself a full heel again because the crowd was kind of cheering him to go along with it. So he was signifying that he was full on heel still, saying it's like, oh, it seems like some of you are happy to see me back. Well, I don't care. It's like, I don't care because, like, when I was gone, no one showed that support or anything to go along with that, and that he was going to dominate whoever came out there to face him. And it ended up being Apollo Crews. They did have a little bit of a back and forth here, but this was pretty much a Joe looking dominant throughout the entire match. He eventually goes over the Coquina Clutch, and then Titus O'Neil kind of gets in his face, then turns his back to Samoa Joe, which Samoa Joe decides to put the Coquina Clutch on him as well, and basically leave both of them lying to finish off the segment. A decent enough segment, good way of bringing Samoa Joe back into the fray, at least on my own personal opinion on that one. It was a good way of bringing Samoa Joe back into the fray. So this leads us to Miz's match for the IC title. He did not know who was going to come out, and it ended up being Matt Hardy. And they went out there and they put on a good match. The two of them put on a really good match. And you had Bo Dallas back as well. Actually, so that makes 5 returns. Bo Dallas came back as well this week with everything on that sense of it. And but Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, they don't get involved in this match. They were just there at ringside. They really weren't doing much of anything else on that side of it. They were just basically there. It was just a straight up match between Miz and Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy busting out a moonsault inside the match. Miz and Matt Hardy worked really well together. I thought this was a really good and fun match to watch in that side of it. It was a rather enjoyable match. Miz goes over, and like I said, well, it was a clean match. Typically, you see Miz going over in these dirty tactics or anything in that sense, but not in this case. It was just straight up Miz going over on that side of it. So this leads us to the second of the second of the title matches that were getting made because the champions decided not to be in part of trying to defend Raw's honor from the week before. Alexa Bliss comes into Kurt's office, kind of tries to butter up to him and everything in that sense. Again, Kurt not happy that she kind of left the other Raw women hanging, everything in that sense. It made a match for Mickie James with her and Mickie James for the women's title later on the night. Matter of fact, they called it the main event of the night, which in the terms of matches it was, but it wasn't the finishing of the show. We'll just leave it at that one, and I'll get into that because that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. So, uh, yeah, basically that's what it ended up being. In that sense, I did like how Alexa Bliss was like, "Oh, we should get rid of Mickey James and just bring anybody from the Mae Young Classic or something in that sense," because they do have a lot of people that they signed from the Mae Young Classic, everything to go along with that. And you saw that on NXT last week as well. That most of that battle royal was people from the Mae Young Classic, in that sense. So it'll be interesting to see if we do see some of those people from the some of the women from the Mae Young Classic show up on Monday Night Raw or on SmackDown, or if they just kind of stay in NXT for the time being as well. So this actually does lead us next to Asuka. Asuka going up against somebody named Stacey Cullen. Cullen. And this is basically what they should have been doing all along with Asuka. This is what they really should have been doing. They should have been just setting her up in squash matches, let her go out there, show her charisma, show her abilities to do whatever she needed to do, and show off her moveset and just win. And that's all they really needed to do, especially with what ended up happening with Emma. The factor that she ended up getting released on Sunday afternoon kind of is like, okay, why did they have competitive matches then if they were just going to release her in that sense? And but this is kind of a better way of going. I like the aspect of the jobber matches, everything in that sense, and it's a good way of kind of getting Asuka over, or at least allowing her moveset to be viewed a little bit more within that time frame. This ended up being a lot more effective than what they typically have done with Asuka over the last over her first two matches and the first two nights on Monday with TLC and Monday Night Raw. So we had another backstage segment. Yeah, there was a lot of backstage segments on this one, but we also had some like flowing into matches and everything throughout the entire night as well. So we had an extended stay for backstage segments. Kind of involving, or mostly involving, Daniel Bryan. So you had Daniel, and they were showing like other little video packages, and they would cut back to Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan shows up. They have this where he shows up initially when Kurt is just looking on his phone. All of a sudden, he starts screaming into like the walkie-talkie that's like, "Hey, they're here. I've got one of them right here in my office." Again, like, how did Daniel Bryan get past security? On that sense of it. It was one that you play off that. It's like, I guess, one of those bits of don't think about it too much. But Daniel Bryan was there. He basically, of course, Kurt's not happy, everything in that sense. But Daniel Bryan's like trying to be the apologetic one. It's like, okay, Kurt's like, just stay here. Don't do anything. You can be in the office. And he kind of goes out. They cut back to it, back to Daniel Bryan, where he is in the office talking on the phone with somebody. You would assume Shane, but kind of later you kind of don't think it's Shane that he's talking to. But the lights cut out, everything on that sense. And we get a couple other segments in another video package, and they cut back to Daniel Bryan talking on the phone. He's like, yeah, the door's locked, everything in this sense. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Kane just appears and just so what ends up happening, he lifts Daniel Bryan for a chokeslam light, and then even the phone light goes out at that point in time to kind of not show that, he's getting chokeslammed, but you just assume that he was getting chokeslammed in that sense of it. They do show a segment later where he is getting wheeled out of Kurt's office, and it's one of those bits they're playing off as like, oh, SmackDown was here, but it was only Daniel Bryan, and he was supposed to be coming in as a peace offering, or at least in his own area doing a peace offering. But Kane ends up taking him out throughout the show. Some decent stuff there, and the factor of it being Halloween tomorrow and everything. I didn't mind this one because they're playing off a lot of different little horror themes, horror movie theme stuff, and you saw that in another bit that they did throughout the night. So up next was Finn Balor going up against Cesaro. Oh man, these two put on a really, 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 really good match. I did thoroughly enjoy this match. Sheamus does try to get involved throughout the entire match. Finn Balor eventually goes over with a coup de grace to the back of the head of Cesaro, and what was just, it was just an enjoyable match between the two of them. Both of them work really, really well together, and it was a joy to watch this match. As as Finn Balor is going up to the rampway, though, and like I said, all of a sudden they start segueing into matches and everything to go along with this. You have Kane come out as Finn's going up the rampway. Finn goes for the attack, but Kane eventually takes him out with a tombstone on the stage. They messed up on the camera angle, and they should have gone to a different camera angle to make it not look like, not make it look like it's like, oh, it's because the aspect of that was like, oh, his head's getting spiked on the stage. They kind of showed the camera angle where, oh, it's very clear that he's not. In that sense, they always mess that one up when it comes to the stage side with the tombstone pile driver on that side of it. But like I said, it segues perfectly right into the match with Seth Rollins that they had advertised earlier in the night. Because the Shield music hits, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose come out. Cesaro and Sheamus just stay out there, and it takes a little bit even for the commentary team to even acknowledge that Sheamus and Cesaro are still out there. They try to get involved in the match. I thought the match was fine. Kane goes over after Cesaro and Sheamus attack Dean Ambrose, and then Seth Rollins attacks them, gets back in the ring, runs into a tombstone, and then Dean goes after Kane after the match. He hits him with dirty deeds. Kane sits up from that, takes them both out, and yeah, Sheamus, Cesaro, and Kane kind of stand tall in that sense of it. So this is where we get to the lovely horror theme, another horror movie type theme for the night. And I'm not going to lie to you. I know there's like little details in this one that they were off on certain aspects for it, but the way that it all played off in the end, I'm kind of forgive it because it was kind of almost B horror film-esque with a lot of the stuff that they went with. So Miz is walking backstage. He's going to his locker room. They're going to have a celebration. It's him, Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel. They're going to have a big old celebration. They walk in there. They smell something weird. What's there in the center of the room? And it's almost shocking that they don't see this right away to go along with it. But it's a bag of garbage. It's symbolism that they put Braun Strowman into the dumpster, into the garbage truck at TLC. It's like, oh, is Braun gonna be back tonight? And it's like, and everybody's just like, and then throughout the night, like Kane, Sheamus, Cesaro, it's like initially like Miz wasn't worried, but then it's like, oh, but you had Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel saying it's like, oh, don't worry about it. We're here, everything in that sense. All of a sudden, Miz is like, I'm completely worried. He goes up to Kane. He goes up to Kane and Sheamus and Cesaro, and there's like, you're overthinking it tonight. It's like, and then they do this little bit where it's like, so, okay, I see it. We're on the same team, and then all of them were like, you're on your own, and they just walk off. It was really good stuff. It was really good stuff on all sides in those little segments, and I'll get to the finish of that a little bit later on. This brings us to what was, how am I going to put this match? It was the Club going up against Slater and Rhino. And by the Club, I mean it was Tex Ferguson and Chad Too Bad because, yes, they were dressed up as their Southpaw Regional Wrestling attires for Gallows and Anderson. I absolutely loved it. It was a trick-or-treat street fight. The match was bad. Let's not get this wrong. The match was bad, but the little nuances that they put in there, the whole little bits with the pumpkin being turned around, so Gallows couldn't see when Rhino was picking up the victory over Carl Anderson. I liked it. Like, even though I know this match was bad, there was a little bit of a smile on my face, and the only thing I really wanted from Gallows is if he really went with the Tex Ferguson stuff all the way through, where he is like, just at some point in the match he goes like, what am I gonna do? like he did in Southpaw Regional Wrestling. It was enjoyable. It was bad. Let's not get it wrong. It was bad, but there was a little piece of me that smiled throughout that entire bit. Maybe it was just because of the factor of the Southpaw Regional Wrestling nod that got put into there. That's probably what it was, but it was bad. Let's not get it wrong, but I still found it to be I found it to be quite enjoyable to a certain degree as well. But it is what it is on that in that sense. So up next, you had Elias coming into the ring, and he basically he's doing his normal shtick, but they change it up just a little bit as they go into his song. They go into a highlight reel as well of him just hitting Jason Jordan with the guitar from the week before. Everything in that sense. Eventually, Jason Jordan does interrupt this. They brawl. Jordan gets the upper hand, chases off Elias, and then destroys his guitar. He plays it off. It's like I was gonna just pick it up and smash it on the ground. It's like, and he puts it in the corner. It's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Just stomps on and destroys it and throws it back to him. I actually kind of like this. I kind of like this segment. Then again, I am really liking Elias to go along with everything. Like everything he ends up doing is just it seems like it's fun and it's good, and it's one of those bits that I do find it rather enjoyable on that side of everything. So this does bring us. Oh yeah, one more segment before basically we go into the last two matches of the night. Kurt Angle. It looked like Miz and Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel were going to leave. Kurt Angle is like, no, you guys are staying to the end of the show, or else. Still in that fired up mood. This does eventually. So it's like they give that deflated look. It's like, dang it, we're almost out of here, almost in that sense of everything. So like I said, there's a little bit more to this coming up a little bit later on, basically finishing off the show that I would love to talk about, and I'll talk about it at that point in time. So this brings out Enzo, and brings out Enzo Amore. He doesn't do much talking again, though his voice is back. His voice is back this time around. Last week he had Drew Gulak kind of do his normal shtick in that sense of everything, which I thought was an absolute. It was great. Drew Gulak is the perfect combination for Enzo in the terms of the cruiserweight division. You have Enzo, who's loud, brash, obnoxious, annoying, however you want it to be. And you just have Drew Gulak, who is completely the opposite of him in the terms of he says things. He doesn't say things in the terms of being loud. He just kind of talks in this normal tone, and just the way that he comes off doing the shtick is it looks like he's actually having a lot of fun doing it. Even to the point that he doesn't spell it SAWFT for soft. He spells it SOFT. It's those little things. It's those little things, those little changes that I just find it very, very enjoyable. And Gulak. I think I heard this on Going In Raw. One of them was they called him basically a treasure to the cruiserweight division. I would completely agree. Drew Gulak is absolutely amazing. It's too bad he got squashed by Kalisto in just a couple of minutes in this match. I think they could probably do a little bit more with Drew Gulak somewhere down the line here. I do like what they're doing with him. I'm not gonna lie, I've watched some of the 205 Live stuff with him doing the PowerPoint presentations, and I don't know why, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun in that sense. Just I guess it's the way he comes off and presents himself, and it comes off great. So this leads us into the main event match of the night, which was Alexa Bliss going up against Mickie James. This was an alright match. It was a pretty good match between the two of them. I think their TLC match was actually better. Alexa Bliss goes over. in the end with basically just a straight right hand, just a punch. That's all it ended out being. To go along with it, your typical back and forth between the two of them. The crowd not so much into this match. They started CM Punk chants during this match, and it was one of those bits like, okay, I know this match isn't overly exciting, but it's not like the CM Punk chant just it felt unnecessary in the match. As they finish off the match, as they finish off the match, they kind of cut back and forth to Alexa and then Miz and the Miz Taraj, Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel. They're getting to the limo, everything in that sense. They're trying to get themselves out of there as quickly as possible. They dash out of the locker room, start walking there. They cut back to Alexa Bliss celebrating in the middle of the ring. Then they cut back to them again as they hit to the limo. They get their bags in there. They're rushing. They're still kind of berating the drivers, like, why aren't you opening the door for us? Everything to go along with that. And then, lo and behold, because they cut to a shot inside the limo, and it's like the limo starts and then it stops immediately. And then they cut back out. And lo and behold, it's a different, and here's a little attention to detail that they kind of miss, but I give a little leeway with this one because not every city's like garbage trucks and dumpsters and everything are the same color. So instead of having like that white beaten up garbage truck that they had at TLC, it was like a bright red garbage truck, and it starts backing up, just backing up, backing up, backing up, and then it just dumps out a bunch of garbage, and then they cut to this shot of like Miz and Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel is like, what's going on? And then they cut to this shot outside of the driver windshield, and Braun just slowly gets up, and it's like, I was done. I was done. That was great. Just good horror movie stuff. Miz, Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel, like all scared in there, like trying to dash out of the limo and get out of there. They eventually get out. Like Braun, as they were trying to run away, Braun just runs across the entire limo on the roof, jumps down, goes after them. They cut back out to the ring, which Alexa Bliss is still there, and then eventually just you see Miz and Curtis Axel run out, and you see just Bo Dallas fly through the entranceway. Hilarious stuff, and just also depicting Braun as this monster again, who's absolutely pissed off. But the bit with the garbage, the dump truck and everything, I lost it. It was great. Braun basically ends out destroying them throughout the arena. This eventually leads to where not Curtis Axel, but Bo Dallas and Miz were able to get away. Curtis Axel was not, and then he eats like 6 power slams, and then Braun just carries him back up the rampway, and it looks like he's just going to carry him off, and then he just runs right over to the announce table, does one more running power slam to him over there. It was, the show got a thumbs up just for that, honestly. For me, it got a thumbs up just for doing that, because the bit that they did with Miz, Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel, Braun in the end, everything, it just screamed a B horror movie, and I love B horror movies. I thought it was absolutely amazing. And like I said, there were some bad spots on Raw. I won't lie on that one. I'm still not a big fan of the whole aspect that Stephanie berates everyone and gets no upcomings to herself on that. But that is what it is. In that sense, but otherwise, I thought the show was rather enjoyable. Yeah, that Halloween trick-or-treat street fight thing was bad, but I think it was hilariously bad. At least that was just me on that side of everything. So I thought it came off as I had a smile on my face throughout most of the night, and I think that is where you're going with everything on that one. It's like, were you entertained? Did it seem like it didn't feel like 3 hours really? It's like I kind of looked at the clock at one point. It's like, oh wow, the show's almost done. to go along with it, and that's a sign of a good show. It's like, oh, it's almost time, but it doesn't feel like it's almost time. And that's just how it came off to me this week. I did rather enjoy Monday Night Raw this week. I thought it came off as a rather good show. On that side of everything, the stuff with Braun Strowman, that was great. Like I said, for the Cruiserweight division, Drew Gulak, you are a treasure for overall for the entire WWE. Braun Strowman, you are an absolute treasure and a monster to go along with it. That was great. That was fun on that side of everything. So, with that being said, that's pretty much everything I got for you on Monday Night Raw this week. So, I thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And yeah, peace out. Have a good one, guys.